Thank you, Steve. Our next speaker is a favorite son of Morris County and perhaps the most successful United States attorney in New Jersey's history. More than 130 times in 8 years, he indicted corrupt New Jersey politicians of both parties, and he convicted or won a guilty plea each and every time. It's a pretty good batting average. One publication has opined that he has already done more for New Jersey than any governor in recent history. He lives in Mendham and is also a former freeholder from Morris County, where we always put taxpayers first. Please help me welcome gubernatorial candidate Chris Christie.
Hey everyone, it's great to be home in Morris County, and I want to thank Jay and all of you for having begun this tradition and keeping it going. Because I'm here tonight not to talk about me and not to talk about the problems in New Jersey. I'm here tonight to talk about Ronald Reagan. And there'll be plenty of time over the next 9 months for us to talk about all the rest of it. But tonight is a night to focus on the legacy of President Reagan and what his legacy teaches us about what we need to do for our future, our children, and our grandchildren's future. What President Reagan, to me, made clear to this country more than anything else is that leadership matters. Who the man or woman is sitting in the chair matters. And what they stand for and how they stand for it matters. You know, lots of people around this country may have been able to have the ideas that Ronald Reagan brought to his campaign in 1980, but I firmly believe that only Ronald Reagan could have done what he did for our country in the 8 years of his presidency. It was his personality, his will, his moral character that gave credibility to all of his fabulous ideas. Because we had a feeling that when we looked at Ronald Reagan and he looked at us, that he was telling us the truth as he saw it, and he didn't care whether you agreed with it or you disagreed with it. He would tell you the truth. And that's what all of us should strive for in public life, is to first and foremost be willing to stand up for what we believe in, and then be able to convince those that we're there to serve. It is public service. And for those that we are there to serve, we need to make sure that they believe in their hearts that we're telling them the truth. Ronald Reagan not only did that for our country, he did it for the world. Because when he stood and said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall," that was a universal truth from someone who had the moral character and credibility to be able to make that type of statement and make it stick. When he said that government was not the solution to our problems, but government was the problem, he had the reputation for honesty to make that statement stick. And when the air traffic controllers decided to strike and said no president would dare to fire them, Ronald Reagan stood up for the law. And he had the moral credibility to take that stand, and he changed forever the relationship between the federal government and labor unions. All of those things that Ronald Reagan did certainly contained his ideas, but I think just as importantly, it was an equal dose of his character and his leadership and his honesty. And so as we honor him tonight, I think what we should demand of every person who offers himself for public service is that same degree of character, of a steel spine, and of not just the ability, but absolutely the requirement to tell us the truth, especially when we're in such difficult times. So I think celebrating Ronald Reagan today, given the conditions we have here in our state and across our country, is even more important than it is when we're in very good times. Because remember, it was Reagan who ushered in those good times. for our country in a very, very dark time. And I love hearing all these Democrats say, this is the worst economic situation since the Great Depression. Well, I don't know. I was alive in 1980 and 81 when inflation was much higher than it is right now, when unemployment was higher than it is right now, and when they said there wasn't a president who could fix it. Remember, Jimmy Carter led us to believe this country was ungovernable. Ronald Reagan proved that through strength of will, honesty, and leadership, our country could not only be governed, but more importantly, it could be led. And that's what we're looking for people who offer themselves for public service. So Jay, I want to thank you for your continued leadership in making this a very special day each and every year for those of us who believe that leadership matters in this country and that Ronald Reagan is the personification of that principle. And I want to thank all of you for taking your time to be here tonight, because by your presence, you are honoring President Reagan's memory, and you are laying down a challenge to all of us who offer ourselves up for leadership now and in the future, that his is the model we should follow. Thank you all very much.